and welcome to a special edition of Darshan America. I'm Sonya Verma.
I'm Shilpa Alimchandani.
I'm Sonya Gavankar.
And I'm Aastha Verma. And this, of course, is our very special show because all four of us co-hosts get together. We get to dress up. So as you can see, we're all in our traditional garb, which I love because it gets a chance to show off the sari and all of our various other traditional outfits that we get to wear. And, of course, everybody's in a good mood because we're all together because it's family time.
Well, speaking of saris and dressing up, there is a new generation in India of young women who don't know how to wear the traditional garb, the sari.
I thought that just happened here.
No, I did too. I read a story in the Washington Post that there's a new generation of young women in India. They do not know how to wear a sari because they're so used to wearing Western attire like jeans and T-shirts and dresses and skirts that they haven't learned how to put on a sari. And now the sari is making a comeback in India and around the world. You know, as we've been talking about this for a long time now, how Bollywood is very popular around the world. And because of the images shown on various media outlets and movies and all that, people want to wear the sari. And now these young girls who never showed an interest before in how to put on a sari are in droves going to the sari shops in India and asking their mothers, their aunties, and everybody else to teach them how to put on a sari.
But don't you think, I mean, there's a generational difference here. I mean, certainly even though we grew up here in the U.S., I learned how to wear a sari when I was 13, have been tying them ever since, and draping them on other
than the rest of us.
And I enjoy it. I mean, it's fun, right? But what strikes me is that this kind of tradition had to go to the West and then circle back to India before the interest grew and young women in India said, hey, I want to know how to do this. I want to be able to drape this on myself or get some kind of shortcut version through a tailor or through some pre-made, pre-draped kind of sari.
Right. I think part of it has to do with, for a long time, they wanted to emulate people outside of India. And so they wanted to show how they could do that and how they could be more Western. And now that people in the West are more interested in their own culture and there's this big spotlight on India, they're like, oh, well, if that's the fashion, that's what I need to do.
But don't you think that young Indian girls are emulating a false sense of what the West is? They're getting things from reality television and television in general, and that's not really how we live our lives. As a first-generation American, I never learned how to wear a sari properly or drape it at all. And I always need help from my family members when I do that. But when I go back to India, my family is still wearing saris, and my cousins, my peers are wearing saris. So I wonder who this class of young Indians are who are not able to wear their own clothing.
Well, there's 2 points here. One, the sari in India used to be an everyday outfit. You know, it used to be your cousin, sister, mothers, everybody wore it. There was no Western outfit. So your house chores were done in a sari. Your babysitting was done in a sari. That is starting to disappear. I think people are adopting easier forms of clothing. You have salwar kurtas, which are far easier. And now you've got jeans. Let's face it, jeans and tees are very popular in India. So house chores, your regular wear saris are not there. Your special occasion saris are there, which maybe is a good thing, because if that's one way to preserve it, then we have to stick with what the fashion trends are. But there's also an economic side to this. You know, it used to be saris used to define where you came from. Regionally in India, there are many kinds of saris, and by wearing a certain kind, people would know you came from this region or that region, and when you travel to that part of the country, you were excited to purchase saris from there because it had special handicraft, or you were supporting the local economies there. So for a while the sari was in a slump, those economies were in a slump too, and this art of creating these saris was dying out in these villages and these rural areas. So I'm glad to see Bollywood make a positive impact in bringing some of those local economies back. But the sad reality is your regular wear everyday house saris, they are starting to disappear. And I think that's the new generation adopting the Western ways out of convenience.
I would say, though, there is an urban-rural divide there. I mean, most of us have family members in urban India, and so there you are seeing a lot more of the jeans and the T-shirts, you know, not surprisingly. But I would argue probably that in rural India you still have the everyday kind of Indian clothes being worn.
I have family in Mumbai, but they're very traditional, and the girls in my family in Mumbai are not allowed to wear jeans. I mean, their parents, you know, no jeans, no pants. You either wear a salwar kurta or a sari. And that's that family. But on my mother's side in Surat, the women are a little more progressive, and they can wear whatever they want within certain bounds, of course. But you know, it really depends on your socioeconomic level, your education level,
whether you work outside the home,
and also how you are raised. I mean, one side of my family is incredibly traditional, and the other side's a little more progressive.
You know what I like about the sari is that it's a very feminine form of draping. It accentuates all the good stuff and it hides all the bad stuff, which is nice. You know, jeans and tees, they are a masculinization of the female form. And in some sense, you know, I feel more feminine when I wear a sari, and I enjoy that experience of feeling more feminine. So I hope that women at least will, along with working and being equal with men, we preserve our feminine side as well. This is one way to do that.
Well, somebody who is walking that wonderful masculine-feminine line with guns for days, guns a-blazing, is Michelle Obama. I mean, she's a power woman. She's a power woman, and she's getting a lot of flack these days for not showing her arms as much as she used to. Remember, her formal portrait is in that sleeveless dress there. Now people are asking, what happened to those guns?
Well, you know, she can't win either way. She goes from wearing the sleeveless and people saying, wow, well, that's a bit shocking for a first lady to wear. And the fact is, she takes care of her body. And this is one way of her expressing that she takes care of her body.
And is proud of all the curves that she has.
And actually, I think that helped women in their self-image to some degree, to be able to have a first lady who can speak her mind without necessarily having to speak her mind. She was able to show that she was a powerful woman. Now the criticism is the opposite. The fact that she's, you know, maybe not wearing quite as much of that anymore. People are saying, well, what happened? In fact, if you ladies saw the Barbara Walters special, she asked the question just outright, saying, well, you know, you're iconic for wearing those sleeveless outfits. How come we don't see you in that more today? Is it because, in part, maybe you're perceived as being so very masculine as a result? I just think that question was kind of ridiculous. I don't know about the rest of you.
It's a totally ridiculous question, but it's Barbara Walters. This is not a time, you know, Barbara Walters is not, with her soft focus, going to be like, tell me about the foreign policy. You know, it's not the time. But I do agree that it's an inappropriate question, maybe to bring out, but the first lady since, you know, Dolly Madison was asked about her clothes and how she looks and how she presented herself. The first lady has always